Now we're going to look at the South Asian realm. The South Asian realm is demarcated by its geography. It divides the Indian Ocean from the Arabian Sea, and the Bay of Bengal and its mountain ranges include the Naga Hills, the Himalaya, the Karakoram, and the Hindu Kush, so that its geography really does define the boundaries of the realm. We call South Asia a kaleidoscope of cultures, and the British Empire has had a major impact on this realm. We see a variety of religious influences, including Hindu, Muslim, and Buddhist. The tectonic collision occurred about 10 million years ago when the Indian plate encountered Eurasia and is responsible for the very high elevations in the northern part of this realm. The monsoon season begins in June and has to do with the low pressure system that forms as the landmass heats up. During monsoon season, it can rain for 60 or more days. We can see a great variety of physiographic conditions in this region, including the northern mountains, which extend from the Hindu Kush and the Karakoram ranges in the northwest, through the Himalayas in the center, and so this is where Mount Everest is. And things are dry near the border with Afghanistan, and there's more greenery toward the east. We also have a belt of river lowlands and the Deccan Plateau. We now know that the Ganges Basin was a point in the out-of-Africa migration of early humans, and later on we have the Sindhu around 2500 BCE, which is a similar time frame as the ancient Egyptians and Mesopotamians. The two major cities were Harappa and Mohenjo-Daro, but the civilization did not last because of environmental changes. Later we have the Aryan invasion in northern India around 1500 BCE. These were people speaking Indo-European languages based in modern-day Iran and organized and urbanized the region, bringing with them the religious belief of Vedism from which Hinduism would arise. One major component of Hinduism is the caste system, which places people in lower castes based on their past lives. It is remarkable that the Hindu civilization has lasted for more than 3 millennia with basically the same structure. Nowhere else in the world has a major religious culture sustained for so long. Indo-European languages did not take hold in the southern part of the continent, where Dravidian languages were indigenous to the realm and were spoken. These languages are still spoken today. Buddhism arose in this realm around 500 BCE with the enlightenment of Prince Siddhartha, or the Buddha, and expanded through the region. Buddhism is strong among lower caste Hindus. There's also Jainism, which is a more purist form of Hinduism, and Sikhism, which is a blend of Islamic and Hindu beliefs that emerged around 1500 AD. Islam spread into this region in the late 10th century, and millions of Hindus converted to Islam, where again it was a welcome alternative for lower caste Hindus. The British dominated trade in the realm in the 18th century, and the East India Company, acting on behalf of the British Empire but mainly focused on economic control, took advantage of political weakness and began their process of indirect rule, which we have already seen in Africa, where local leaders were left in place if they could set up the desired trade arrangements. In 1857, East India officially became a part of the British Empire. Things were complicated even before the British pulled out, because Muslim activists promoted the idea of a separate state and eventually resulted in the separation of India and Pakistan. The partitioning displaced many people who became refugees. India and Pakistan have had a tumultuous relationship since they were split off from one another. Pakistan was originally united with present-day Bangladesh, where Islam was the state religion, and East Pakistan/Bangladesh seceded in 1971 after encouragement from India. We also had Cold War tensions in this realm. Now there are still tensions because of the number of Muslims still in India. We can see these tensions play out in Kashmir, the contested capital. Another concern in this realm is Islamic terrorism, and a number of bombings have occurred. Pakistan's northwestern frontier is controlled by Taliban forces, and these forces can move across the border between Afghanistan and Pakistan, which impedes the US's efforts to defeat the Taliban. This realm also has China to worry about. The northeastern extension of Jammu and Kashmir state is claimed by China, and neither side seems intent on conceding. There is also the older conflict in the land of the Donlit Mountains, where India borders Tibet. The Indian Ocean plays a major role here as well, with India, China, and the US all major players. We've seen fragmented modernization in almost every realm we have looked at so far, and the South Asian realm is no different. Globalization plays a key role, but India's shining is marred by the fact that over half of the country's 1.227 billion people still live in poverty-stricken rural areas and urban slums. One-third of Pakistan's population lives in poverty, and half of Bangladesh and half of the realm live on $1 US a day or less, and children are malnourished. There's been a lot of liberating of economies here by privatizing state-run companies, lowering trade tariffs, reducing government subsidies, and trying to bring in more business activity. And economic growth rates are climbing. There's a new urban middle class emerging, as well as megacities such as Mumbai, Delhi, New Delhi, and Dhaka. However, more than half of the workforce in this realm is employed in agriculture, and overall productivity is low. About 70% of the realm's population is rural, and millions of lives each year depend on a good harvest. Looking at population in this realm, we see a massive population in a relatively small area. We can see from looking at our population map that we have a lot of high-density areas, inland as well as on the coast. Is this realm overpopulated? The text tells us that that's a really complicated question that people ask when they wonder if there are too many mouths to feed. We know that countries with high population densities, like the Netherlands and Japan, do very well despite their lack of natural resources, so it's much more complex than just saying there are too many people. In this realm, we're really looking at human resources, and the fact is that there are too many people here who are insufficiently productive. We also look at factors such as demographic transitions, where we look at changes in birth and death rates. And I think this demographic transition model chart is really helpful to look at. This region really needs to see birth rates come down so the population can stabilize. We have a few more charts to look at. We are also concerned with demographic burdens, which are represented by the part of the population that is too old or too young to be productive and has to be cared for by the productive part of the population. Lower birth rates will reduce this demographic burden. While birth rates are decreasing, we can see from the 2012 population pyramid that boys outnumber girls. Boys are valued more because they are thought to be more productive income earners and are entitled to land and inheritance. This has long-term effects, such as the extreme sex ratio we see evident now, and there is a great deal of discrimination against women and girls in this realm. This realm is very much a realm in transition, politically, economically, and demographically, and hopefully these transitions will lead to improved quality of life for the many inhabitants in this realm. Let's now look at the regions of South Asia. We have Pakistan in the west, India, we have Bangladesh in the east, and we have the mountainous north and the southern islands. Pakistan is one of the world's 10 most populous states, with a population of 193 million, and is second only to Indonesia among Muslim countries. It forms a wedge between Iran and Afghanistan in the west and India to the east. It is a difficult place to govern because of its disparate subregions, which we can see in the map here. India is the realm's giant, consisting of 28 states, 6 union territories, and 1 national capital territory. It occupies 3/4 of the land triangle of the region and is poised to take over China as the most populous country on Earth. It is the world's largest democracy, and it contains a cultural mosaic of different religions, ethnicities, and languages. In addition to religious tensions, we can also see the persistence of the caste system, which we discussed earlier. Despite its size, only 29% of India's population lives in cities and towns, but we are seeing a lot of urban migration of people hoping for better opportunities. Moving on, let's look at Bangladesh. This country is highly susceptible to natural disasters. In fact, 8 of the 10 deadliest natural disasters of the 20th century have struck Bangladesh, such as the 1991 cyclone that killed 150,000 people. It is a nation of subsistence farmers, with more than half of the workforce engaged in agriculture. The society is overwhelmingly Muslim and has a high birth rate and a lot of political and economic problems. In the mountainous north, we have Nepal, which is a buffer state between India and China. The Nepalese people are of mixed origin, and about 80% of its population are Hindu. As a country, it is severely underdeveloped and is plagued by environmental ruin and strong regional divisions. We also have Bhutan in this region, which lies between India and Tibet. Bhutan went from an absolute monarchy to a democracy in 2008. Most Bhutanese are Buddhist, but there are tensions with a Nepalese minority. Bhutan has considerable mineral resources, but its isolation makes it hard to tap into these resources. The southern islands consist of the Maldives, more than 1,000 tiny islands whose population is almost 100% Muslim. This is a tourist mecca, but its low elevation makes it worrisome for future impacts of global warming. Finally, we have Sri Lanka, which achieved independence from the British in 1948, and the majority of its population are Buddhists. Commercial agriculture dominates the economy here. The Tamils, brought by the British, have been fighting exclusion, and a civil war broke out in 1983. There still has not been a resolution to the infighting. That's it for South Asia. We move next to East Asia, where we'll look at China, Mongolia, North and South Korea, and Japan.